Today's episode is brought to you by Real Estate Radio Experts. You want to level up? You want more listings? You want to dominate your market? Don't compete, dominate, baby. It's radio. Go to realestateradioexperts.com, fill out the getting started sheet if you think you're ready to level up, and let's chat. Everybody, what is happening? I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for tuning in to the show, episode number 222. Jeez, we've been doing this show for a while. We are acres deep in awesome content. And it's crazy, man. You know, people find the show all the time, and they're like, they find it, they listen to one, and they're like, holy crap. And then, like, you know, I seriously, I'll get an email from somebody, and they're like, I just listened to 4 episodes back to back. I just found the show. I'm going to episode number 1 and starting from the beginning, which that's great. That's a great goal. There's a lot of hours here, and I would just say keep going new and work backwards. But this show, what we talk about entrepreneurship. We do it through the lens of an agent. That's all right. Whatever business you have, the tips, tricks, strategies, all that will work in whatever you're trying to grow. And I'll tell you something, you can start this show and know nothing, like be a kindergartner in the world of entrepreneurship, in the world of building a business. By the time you get to 100 deep and you have 100 hours of this content, you're going to have a master's. By the time you finish all 200, you got a PhD. So I'm glad you found it. Really quickly, I got to tell you something. I want to share something with you, pretty exciting. Next month in New Orleans, Keller Williams is throwing their family reunion. So if you are part of Keller Williams, you know this. If you're not, this does not matter to you. But I will tell you this. Maybe you live in New Orleans. I'm going to be in New Orleans next month, February 13 to 16 or February 14 to, I think it's 13 to 16. And I was there last year. I don't have a ticket this year. I did last year. But all I did was I was just meeting people back to back, literally just back to back. Most of it was in the hallways. So I'm going to be doing that same thing. But as I thought about it, I was like, this is a great opportunity to get my guests together and get you listeners together and throw a little event. So if you're going, send me an email, let me know. I'll put you on the list to give you an Eventbrite. And I'm not going to charge you guys anything. But you know, I'm going to buy booze, I'll buy beer, I'll buy wine. I know you realtors like to party. So I don't want you guys getting crazy and puking in my hotel suite. But let me know. I think that'll be fun. Be tons of fun. In fact, the only reason I'm flying out there is to throw this event. So again, let me know. I don't want to spend $3,000 to fly out there, throw the event, and then you were there and you decided not to show up. Come on, man. All right. Look, today's episode, let's talk about it. Let's talk about why I brought this guy on. 2 main reasons I brought this guy on. 3 main reasons. Reason 1, the guy's a Canadian. So we need to represent the world a little bit more. We have listeners all over the world. We're literally all over the world in 130 countries. We're doing radio for people all over the world in New Zealand and Australia, the United States. So we need to get realtors from other parts of the globe on this show a little bit more. Now, Canada's not too far away, but it's Canada. It's another country. So number 1, he's a Canadian. So our Canadian listeners, you guys are going to know what this is all about. A little Mike Myers joke. Okay. So that's reason number 1. Number two is this guy's done something pretty amazing. He's been in real estate for 4 years. 2 years, he was a buyer's agent. 2 years ago, the guy goes out on his own, forms his own team, and guess what? This guy went from zero deals to 200 deals in a period of 24 months. That's a pretty incredible. So, I'll tell you, we talk about how he did that, right? We talk about what kind of lead gen do you have to do to go from 0 to 200 in 2 years. We talk about, mindset. We talk about growing a team. The fact that, there's no way you're going to be able to get to 50, 60, 70, 80 deals without being able to properly manage and delegate. So we talk about how to do that. We talk about something that I think is pretty near and dear to a lot of your hearts, and that is how to go from selling real estate part-time, nights and weekends, to crushing it on a full-time basis. That's something that he did. We talked about how to break into a new market. And again, this guy's not from this market. He parachuted into this market. And again, 2 years later, the guy's dominating. You guys can do that too. I want you to do that. I want you to learn some of this stuff. We talk about why you should join a team. We talk about this guy's, I'll tell you, I'll wrap this up with this. This guy's whole bit is he is a lifelong learner. He's a lifelong learner. He tries to learn something new every day, and he feels like that's been a little bit part of his secret sauce in terms of his success. All right, let's get to it. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first million in real estate. Yeah. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
Always, we do a little bit of housekeeping. 2 things here, guys. 3 things. Number 1, Twitter. You guys should all have a Twitter account. I'd love to meet you out in Twitterland. My Twitter handle is @SuperAgentsLive. The show hashtag, unpack that idea, use it. That is a big follow train. Use that and you will get more followers. I encourage everybody that is a listener of the show, support the other people listening, support the other people that are like you, like this show, and maybe is building a business that's similar to you. Speaking of building a business and joining a community, School of Profit. We just launched this product Tuesday. I'm really, really excited about it. Basically, it is a coaching product. And it's not $1,000 a month like everybody else. It's not $500 a month. It's starts at $99 a month. Now, we are going to be raising the prices later, so I would encourage you to sign up now. But here's the deal. What you get, you are going to be able to jump on calls just like this with today's guest. You're going to have access to me. So we'll do some sessions with me. We'll do some sessions with other people. You will join a community of, again, like-minded people, join a tribe. And then lastly, and I think probably most importantly, we're going to team you up with an accountability partner. Now, that's something that nobody in the world of coaching does. They want to keep, these coaches out there, for better or for worse, whatever, they want to be your accountability partner. But I can tell you there's power in community. There's power in other people holding you accountable other than just the guy that you pay. So there you go. Go check it out, schoolofprofit.com. Let's get to this fascinating episode. Today on the show, look, you guys have been asking for not only real people, right? You guys don't want to hear necessarily the people who are doing 700 deals, but you're also asking for specific geography. Now, we have a ton of listeners in Canada. This is going to probably be only our second Canadian, so I'm excited to have him on the show. And I wanted to have him on the show for not only just because he was from Canada, but he has an interesting story. Now, here's the deal, and we'll unpack all this. But he'll finish the year with about 200 deals. He has a team currently of 5 people. He's doing some expansion stuff, but he got to this point in only 4.5 years. In 4.5 years, he's built this business up to 200 plus transactions. And I think for you guys, if you're doing 30 or 50 deals out there, this is achievable. And he's in a small market. So I'm thrilled to welcome today Courtney Atkinson. Hey, Courtney, thanks for taking the time out, man.
Yeah, you bet, Toby. Thanks for having me, man. Good chatting with you this morning.
For sure. So look, I've given the audience sort of a nuts and bolts overview of what you're doing in business, and we'll get there, but I always like to know a little bit about you. So tell me and tell the audience a little bit about yourself personally before we dig into what you're doing in business.
Yeah, you bet, Toby. Well, I'm 40 years old. I'm not from the community that I do business in. I'm from Lethbridge, Alberta, which is a town of about 85,000. I didn't grow up here. I moved here 10 years ago to take a job at the University of Lethbridge. I was a manager there and then moved on to a position where I was managing human resources. And I was doing a lot of work that looked a lot like real estate to me. I was working evenings and weekends on a salary. And back in 2008, I thought, gosh, you know what, I'm going to get my real estate license and see if I can't do this part-time. So I did that and and did pretty well. I think I closed, maybe 25 or 30 transactions that year, evenings and weekends. It's worth noting too that was just, after the market had started tanking out. So everybody thought I was crazy for even considering getting into the business. But I enjoyed that year part-time, and I got I handed my resignation, I guess, the end of that year, and started full-time as a buyer specialist with another team. 2009, did that for a year and a half, and then parted ways. And by mid-2010, started brought in a buyer's agent and an assistant. And since then, pretty much every year we've had about 30% growth, and been bringing new members on and looking at expanding to a different city here this year, or early next year, I suppose.
Got it.
So yeah, it's been a pretty interesting few years. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Look, starting in 2008, that's the worst time you could do. So you were in management. I want to know a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that. I want to know how the skills that management and sales, two different things. What did you learn, or what did you take from your management experience, and how did you apply that to your real estate sales business?
Yeah, that's a good question, Toby. I think the interesting thing was that I was working with a lot of different people, and the position that I held was really accountable to a number of different stakeholders. So, at the university, it's a large employer, and by virtue of that, you as an employee, I think you're given the feeling that you have a lot of different people who have input on what it is that you're doing on a daily basis. You might only have one direct supervisor or one direct boss, and that was certainly my case. But I had multiple faculties, and that would be deans of different faculties who had input and insight and concern and financial investment into the work that I was doing. So I think, that translates kind of cleanly into real estate, because as you know, when you're a listing specialist and team leader like I am, you have your internal stakeholders on your team, and you have your external stakeholders like your clients. And in my case, I carry, let's say 30 to 40 listings, depending on the time of year. Well, that's 30 or 40 different bosses that you're keeping track of, and multiple projects that you have your eye on. And at the same time, you're still looking towards growth and making sure that the business is doing what it needs to do. So to me, that translated pretty cleanly to real estate.
Yeah, got it. Okay, that makes sense. So Courtney, look, you did something that I get a lot of emails, and the common thing is, hey, listen, I have this other full-time job. I'm a full-time chef. I'm whatever, and I'm currently selling real estate part-time, but I want to migrate to full-time. Here's what I hear, and I want you to talk me through how you did it. But I often hear, as soon as I can match my current salary, then I'll go full time. And those people never get there, or rarely get there. What was your thinking? How did you migrate from part time to full time?
Oh man, it wasn't easy, Toby. I think that for me, it happened in a couple of different ways. One, let's be honest, I had the support of my wife, who I've since, we've since divorced, but it's not to do with real estate. But I will say that played an important role. She was supportive of my transition to real estate. That was key for me. It was also the fact that I was at a point in my career outside of real estate, my job with the university, where I wanted to leave. I had the motivation to do something different in my life, and real estate was going to be that thing. And I think in my mind, I had already committed to making it work. There wasn't really an option there for me. To me, that was probably the biggest piece. It wasn't like I had a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. I had a plan A, and plan A was to replace my income in real estate and accomplish all the goals that I've been dreaming of my whole life that I wasn't going to be able to accomplish working at the university. So that was part of it. The other part of it was finding a way to make the transition smooth. I mean, I wasn't an idiot about it. It needed to be clean and good, and I needed to do that for me and my family. So what that looked like was convincing a local successful real estate team that I would be a good addition to their team on a part-time basis, and then I could add some value even on a part-time basis. And so, that first year when I was working part-time, I was dealing with leads evenings and weekends, and I was, pulling 70, 80, sometimes 90-hour weeks, working with, truthfully, probably some of their B or C clients, not the easy to close ones, a lot of web leads, people who maybe needed some convincing to do business, but still I was able to cultivate those leads and make that happen. So To be clear, I wasn't responsible for generating those leads. I was responsible for taking those leads, warming them up, and closing them. So I think if it weren't for that, it would have been extremely difficult. And I can sympathize with people who are, working full-time at another job and trying to run their own real estate business by making the phone ring and generating those leads so that they can close them, because it's the kind of thing that's really difficult to do unless you're 100% in. Like, lead generation is number one in this business, as we all know. And if you're already doing another job, you're focusing on something that's not generating leads. And so replacing that income is something that's just unlikely in my mind unless you're with a team. And I'm a huge proponent for that reason.
Yep, I 100%
that may not
agree.
be pop. Yeah.
So, look, let me ask you this, because I hear all the time, you as a full-time real estate agent, you can tell right away if you're dealing with a part-timer, right? Because, they are operating on weekends and evenings. Was that ever a disadvantage in trying to get a deal closed or an offer accepted when you were doing that part-time?
Yeah, I suppose it was, Toby. I mean, I felt like I wasn't being taken seriously. I felt like, a lot of those things that you feel like when you're agreeing to anything, people don't treat you with respect, and they railroad you, and, they pull all the old tricks out of the books, and, the realtors see you coming. Oh, we've had 3 showings of this property today. You might be multiple offers if you don't write right away. I mean, we've all heard these things before, and certainly was no exception, but that's just part of being new at something. And, I was experienced enough in another area that at least I carried some confidence over, and I suppose I didn't get railroaded as much as others might. So I was a little bit aware that could happen, but hey, we all got to cut our teeth somewhere, and certainly I cut mine that first year. And I have to admit, Toby, it was nice for me as a new realtor to be able to put somebody else's business at risk,
right,
and somebody else's reputation at risk while I cut my teeth that way. Because frankly, I got all those young grasshopper things out of the way at somebody else's expense, not my own.
Right. No, that's a good point. So, okay. So, when it came to so you kind of figured it out, right? It was a little bit rocky in the beginning. You kind of figured it out. The first year you did 25, 30 deals. Now, just from talking before with you off air, you were that buyer specialist for about 1.5 years, 2 years. What did you do, right? When you went out on your own, you just said a minute ago, lead generation is everything. So what did you do back then? Gonna have to, if I do the math, this is 2010. Here in America, 2010 was still it was still really rough out there. What did you do to cultivate leads at that point, and were they on the buyer side or seller side?
Yeah, great question. Well, I always knew that I was going to be starting my own team. I knew that from day one when I got my real estate license. And I will say this, that even when I was studying to get my license, which would have been through 2007, I picked, gosh, I wish I could find it, but I found a blog somewhere that gave me the 25 top books on real estate. There was Gary Keller's Millionaire Real Estate Agent and a bunch of others that are, to this very day, my Bibles. I read all 25 books during the time when I was getting my licensing. And then when I was licensed in 2008, Toby, I made a point of building the infrastructure that I knew that I would need when the time came for me to start building my own team. So, not only did I have this full-time job that I was working and this part-time job of selling real estate evenings and weekends, but I was also building future infrastructure so that I could be generating my own leads when the time came. And it took about 1.5 years for those things to gain traction. I did have the permission of my team leader at that time who I was working for to kind of do that simultaneously without interrupting his business, because at the end of the day, he knew that we were on a limited time relationship, and he also knew that he'd be benefiting substantially from those leads that I would be cultivating. He'd get, in that case, 50% of the revenue that I was generating from my own leads. So, what did he care, right?
Right.
And so, I was gaining traction on my lead generation front. And primarily that was, through cultivating the relationships that I built over the years, with mailers, drop mail, emails, phone calls, lunches, coffees, and then squeeze pages. I mean, those were kind of back in the days before everybody was into SEO and PPC and squeeze pages and all that. And so I was having quite a bit of success with that. And by the time 2010 rolled around and I'd left his team, that's the point where I was like, okay, my income is already replacing the leads that he's giving me. I'm already generating enough leads that on a 100% split, I'll be ahead. And I think I did that for a couple of months, and I thought, gosh, you know what, I can't keep up. I need help. So it was almost immediate that I brought in a buyer specialist. And so, I think that's part of being a good realtor and trying to grow a business, is that you've got to realize that you have to do things in tandem. You can't just put your head down and go work with buyers. You got to put your head down and go work with buyers. And then when you've got 5 spare minutes, you got to think about how you're going to generate a buyer lead to work with 3 months from now. And That was something that I always had my mind on.
Interesting. Okay. So you mentioned you started cultivating your own infrastructure, and look, you and I know, and everybody that listens to the show knows that there is no way that you can do the kind of volume that you're doing at 200 plus deals unless you have bulletproof systems and processes. So for those people who are maybe stuck doing 30 deals and they're working 70, 80 hours a week, going, I can't do anymore. What are some of those early systems and or processes that you put in place that were either critical to reaching the level that you are now, or just that you think were super important?
Yeah. Well, fundamentally, Toby, delegation is really what it comes down to. I mean, I think what makes somebody capable of closing 70 or 80 deals a year, as you say, is, that person is clearly really good at their job. You're good enough to generate all those leads. You're good enough to work with buyers and sellers and do all that simultaneously while at the same time generating those leads to begin with on a consistent basis. And that's a tremendous accomplishment. But there is a cap there, and you can only do so much. And I think, most people will say 100 is a ton. Like if you can do 100, you can do it for 1 or 2 years, but you can't do it for 3 to 5. You'll just burn out. And so I recognized early on that, hey, listen, if I'm going to have any time off or any type of, quality of life, I've got to bring people in. And that delegation is really the next step for folks like that. And I was at the point, frankly, where I said consciously, you know what, I'm prepared to make less money if I can have more time. And I was ready and willing to accept that as an outcome if I could just have a little bit more time and could keep from burning out like a lot of people do. And so I brought people in to help me with that and trusted them with my clients and with implementing some of those processes. And what happened kind of surprised me, but it won't be surprising to other people who have done 200 plus deals. My business thrived. I got out of the way of my own success essentially. And, just started saying to my staff, like, listen, like, here's something that I've always wanted to do, a new lead generation strategy or process. Can you please just create this? Let's touch base next week. You tell me how you did with it. I'd sit down with them the next week and maybe spend a half an hour to an hour kind of honing that process or tweaking it a little bit, documenting some slight changes, and do the same thing the next week. And these are like 5 or 7 hours worth of work going into documenting, implementing these processes, but I only had 2 hours worth of input. And the beauty of that was that, you're paying these people $15 to $20 an hour, but they're the kind of quality people, if you've done your due diligence, that are good at implementing strategies and changes with your supervision and with your input. And as far as the implementation of your vision goes, if you've got good people around you and the ability to articulate what it is that you want done, and you can get out of your own way and don't feel that you're the most important piece of the entire puzzle, then your business will totally thrive. And like I said, that those numbers of 30% increased revenue every year is absolutely true. And every year I've picked a slight goal. Somehow I want to get out of my own way and say, okay, you know what, I'm the barrier to my own success because I won't let go of this. And then I look at these, 3 or 4 things and say, okay, what can I reasonably outsource for a reasonable sum of money that will allow me to focus on a higher dollar value line of work. And every year that's worked. And I think that's what you'll find consistently in successful teams that have had massive growth year over year.
I absolutely agree. And when I think about systems or processes, I think first, how do I automate it? And if I can't automate it, how do I delegate it? But the thing that most people struggle with is the thing that you just said, getting out of their own way, right? I mean, we're all entrepreneurs. We all think like nobody cares about my business as much as I do. So I need to be the person putting all this together. And what happens is, there's only so much you can do and it never gets done. That is fundamentally a mind shift how did you get there? Did you have a coach? I mean, how did you make this mind shift and be able to just go, okay, look, Jimmy, Susie, whatever, you take it and run with it, and I'll just I'll polish it up once I get it.
Yeah, those are that's a pretty loaded question. I came to that, I think, a couple of different ways. I mean, like I said to you before, reading all those books was a real thing. I mean, I'm a believer in education. I've got loads of education myself, and that was not to prepare for real estate, just as part of my personal philosophy. I did a master's degree in business, and I think, that's helped me in some ways, but not much. But what it did prepare me for was knowing that to be good at most things, most people make a point of learning about it. I mean, it sounds kind of simple, but real estate's one of those things where you see a lot of people who just don't make a point of every day just trying to learn something new and getting better, and certainly not before they endeavor to get into the business. So I took that seriously. I said, you know what, I'm going to find the best 25 books. I'm going to read every single one of them back to back. And heck, I could provide you with that list if you wanted it after the interview's over for some of your other folks. And it was an absolute dream for me to be able to gain that knowledge. But what I learned during that time was that I had a lot of the answers up front, but there were so many ongoing challenges that I didn't have answers to on a daily basis that I thought, gosh, I'm going to need more help. And you're right. I did lean on coaches from a very early stage. I think probably from midway through my first year, maybe it was my second year. I can't recall exactly, but very early on, I hired a coach. I found out who one of the best Canadian coaches was, and they were more focused on kind of individual realtors. And then as my business grew, I think, once we probably got up to 100 plus transactions and the team was a decent size, I looked to an outfit that specializes in team coaching, and they've been just a dream. I mean, gosh, I can call my coach any given day of the week and say, hey man, like, here's this challenge that I'm having now, or here, I want to, float a contract by you. I'm thinking about doing this deal that's, not a deal in real estate, but, some sort of other thing with relation to the business and the growth of my business. Hey, can you give me a hand thinking about this? And it's been invaluable. And
who's that
I think
company?
the mistake that a lot of people make, what's that? Oh, it's Goodfellow Coaching.
Oh, okay.
My coach is Bill Renaud. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think that the mistake that a lot of people make in real estate is they try to say, okay, you know what, my coach is going to cost me, in my case, like, $1,000, $1,200 a month or whatever it is. I need to monetize that. I think, okay, how am I going to make $14,400 this year based on this information?
Hey guys, let me break in here really quick. I couldn't resist. Courtney is talking about coaching, team coaching. Did you guys go to the School of Profit? God, I keep saying the school. It's just www.schoolofprofit.com. There is our team coaching product. Sign up, join a call. You can hop on a call, ask the top producers your questions. You get access to me. You get access to a tribe of like-minded people, and we pair you up with an accountability partner. All right. Just want to let you know. It's remind you. Let's get back to this fascinating episode.
And, education in my mind is one of those almost nearly inquantifiable things. If you're a lifetime learner, you're going to have a continuum of success that others just don't experience. And, if you try to monetize every little thing that you do on the education front, I think you'll find that it's kind of hard to do. And I look at my growth and I say, gosh, you know what, I couldn't do that without the knowledge that I have and the support that I have from my team. But my tertiary providers, like my coach, are part of that team. And so they're just as important. So, to me, that's just like any other staff member. I can't do it without those guys. I lean on them for a different kind of support. And that helps me be a better leader on my team.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I think, you touched on this. I think most people, when they think about, here's the problem I think with most agents, right? The rank and file agents is the fact that they don't come at this as a true entrepreneur, meaning, they think, oh, I'm going to sell real estate, and they don't understand or don't put two and two together that every other business that you go and start, whether it's you want to be a plumber, a construction guy, whatever, you need you need to invest capital for property, plant, and equipment. Now, this is one of the only, this real estate is very unique in the sense that there is no capital outlay to go out and make $1 million. Fundamentally, there's not. And I think that's the I don't know, the thing that most people are missing, the fact that they need to invest in themselves, they need to invest in their business. And I'll ask you that question, Courtney, is as you've told your story here, I can see literally from day one, you thought of this like a business. And I can tell you that all the top producers I've had on the show, that's the one common thing that they've all had. They started their businesses as a business. How did you? And this is kind of a loaded question because there's a lot of ways that I'm leaning towards this. But how did you, I guess, cultivate that mindset of wanting to build a business in real estate? And then secondarily, and this is a bad thing that I'm doing, linking two questions. How did you not? Well, no, answer that one, Courtney, and I'll answer the follow-up question. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I think I have to attribute that to the reading that I did before, Toby. I can't tell you that I came from a long line of real estate agents. My parents were teachers and, not business owners. And, my circle of friends were professors and academics. I didn't really come from a circle of people who ran successful businesses, and I had no inside track to starting a career in real estate. It just seemed to be something that I thought I could be good at. And you know what? The truth is that I didn't think that there was anything else out there that I would be good at. I mean, it was the one thing that I thought, gosh, you know what? That's something that I can do for sure. And that starts with the fact that I'm a caring individual. I'm a good communicator, and I like real estate. I thought I would like being self-employed, but it wasn't like I had some crystal ball into it. But I knew that education piece would be important. And I have to say, Gary Keller's book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, is my Bible to this day, Toby. It's a roadmap for success for anybody who wants to build a team and learn how to grow a real estate business. And no matter, whether you make it to the net a million chapter or not, if you just want to have a comfortable life and work a normal 40-hour work week, there's a roadmap in there for the guy or gal who likes real estate as a career path and wants to create a business structure that doesn't burn you out and that can afford you a lifestyle that is maybe one that you've dreamt of. And so I really attribute a lot of my success to reading that book and just reflecting on it periodically as I'm in those growth stages. So, that's really what it was. It was just a matter of education and informing myself of a way to accomplish some goals. And I didn't know what those were until I picked up that book and some other supporting books, some that Gary wrote and some others that are in those 25 that I told you about.
Yeah. And I want to get that list, but I have to a little bit challenge you on that because, you can pick up and read MREA, and that book is all about mechanics, how to do this, how to do that, 33 touch, whatever. And it's a great book for mechanics, but there's something else happened to you, Courtney, right? I mean, you number one are in Canada. You guys are a socialist country, not a capitalist, your background is, your parents were teachers, and I'm sure one of the 25 hopefully was Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm sure all through your growing up, your dad was, hey, get a good education, get a good job, go to work, and and pay your bills. You are if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I mean, you're very much cultivated somehow the thinking of that rich dad. So explain if you can. Because I'm sure other people struggle with this. How did you get there?
Yeah. Well, I think what you do, Toby, or at least what I did, was I looked at the level of success that I was having any given day, and I just reflected on it. I took the advice of one of my coaches and had a kind of a vision list of things that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And, I still see those lists. I look back at them periodically in 2009 and 2010, and I think, gosh, you know what? I wasn't dreaming big enough, fast enough. And each year those dreams got a little bit bigger and my goals for the business got a little bit bigger. On a daily basis, I think what was happening was I trained myself to look for opportunity in places where maybe others weren't. And I think that was just part of keeping my eye on the prize, just saying, okay, you've got these goals. We've all had those days where you don't get home till 2 a.m. You've tried to close this difficult deal. You're writing it on the hood of your car at, 1:00 at night when you'd rather be somewhere else, and you come home and you think, man, that's not the way to live a life. Like, how am I going to be better? What's the next step? And I think I just got in the habit of looking at the daily activities that I was doing and tried to find, just incremental better ways of doing it. Like, does that deal really need to be negotiated in the hood of a car at 1:00 in the morning? Or is there a way that you could get a decent night's sleep so that you could be a better servant to your clients the next day? And, just adopt strategies to do that. And then that leads to better control over your schedule. And then that leads to, never forgetting a phone number again, because you forget that person's name or phone number. I mean, gosh, I've got, I don't know, something like 2,000 or 2,500 contacts in my phone, every one of them by first name, last name, husband's name, wife's name,
wow,
address. Like when somebody calls me that I haven't spoken to for 3 years, I know where they're living, I know what their kids' names are and their pets' names are.
Wow.
It's just part of their contact info. So, that's just the habits that you form on a daily basis, just very minor things. But if you make a point of always getting just a little bit better, just, every day, not trying to take the world down and make the whole thing your oyster now, but just say, you know what, I'm going to make my life better tomorrow by doing this one thing, by changing this one habit. And then I think, at the end of the year, you can look back and say, gosh, you know what, I've come a long way. And, maybe I now work 5 hours less a week, and I get to spend some more time with my friends and family, and I'm a little bit more satisfied with my work. And hey, look, my income grew too because I got out of my own way. I just think it's just a daily habit of looking for ways to improve.
Got it. I love that. I mean, and look, that reminds me of Darren Hardy's compound effect, right? If you can get 1% better every day at the end of the year, you're 365% better. So I think that's great advice for everybody. All right, so look, let's get into some of the nuts and bolts, the mechanics. That was a bunch of mindset stuff and kind of how you trained yourself. Look, you didn't grow up in this area. The list that you had, your sphere as you were entering real estate were all professors. List building, right? We all know, you said lead gen's number one, right? Real estate's a contact sport. You got to go out and meet people. What are, you mentioned 2,000 contacts in your phone. What are some of the list building techniques that you're using today that is working out and maybe some of the ones you've used in the past that you like?
I'm a believer in fundamentals, Toby. I mean, most people now are, involved in PPC and SEO and, squeeze pages have been around for a long time, of course. But if I make a point of meeting somebody at a social event or, a lunch or, somebody drops a name of somebody who's successful or who might have an interest in this or that, I put it in my phone. I'm not a collector of business cards, but I am, I've on several occasions, made an excuse to duck away from a table somewhere and go put my head to my phone and put a name and even just basic information, even if I don't have a phone number or an email address in my phone, and making sure that I can reach out to people. And, just trying to be memorable. I mean, the thing that I do well, and we all have to look to this, is say, okay, what is it that I do well? I build strong personal relationships with people, and that matters to me, and that's why I'm good at it. When somebody tells me, their personal situation, I legitimately care, and it matters to me, and I try to find ways to help. And that shines through in what I do, but, I have lots of competitors in my market who maybe aren't as strong on that front, but they're way stronger on the massive list building techniques. And, they just hammer it out more in terms of volume of generating leads than I do, whereas my closing ratio might be higher. So, I think for me personally, it's been very basic. I make a point of leveraging the people that I have strong relationships with. I literally say to people, Toby, when I call them and ask them for referrals, hey, it's been so long since we talked. I really appreciated working with you a couple of years ago. Wanted to touch base and see how the kids and the house is doing. And have a good 5 or 10 minute conversation with people and just say, listen, you know what, we're still growing lots and looking to accomplish big things this year. I wonder if you know anybody that's looking at buying or selling in the next couple of months. Can you maybe help me work with somebody a little bit like you? We love working with you, and we'd love to work with more people like you. Do you know somebody else that's doing something right away?
Got it.
It's an open-ended closing question, right? I mean, you just keep your mouth shut and wait. And sometimes they'll say, no, I'll keep you in mind. And other times you get 3 phone numbers and names, right? And I just do that consistently. It's my job as team leader and owner of this corporation to make sure that the leads are coming in, and so much of it has just been organic, Toby. We don't have, I'm not the guy to call and say, hey, Courtney, what's the latest, greatest, whiz bang lead generation strategy? How fancy is your Facebook marketing? I'm doing average on all those, bleeding edge technology, fronts, better than average, frankly, but it's not my goal to be an industry leader on Facebook marketing or SEO or PPC. I mean, I have above average accomplishments on all those fronts, but where I shine because of my personality is reaching out to people and telling them that I do appreciate how they've helped me in my business grow, and that I did appreciate being a part of their life during that time, and asking them for help in growing my business. And that's sincere, and that works for me. And so I think my recommendation to other people who are looking at growing their business is have an honest look at who you are and what your strengths are. And if you're not clear on that, ask your closest friends, to sit down, take them out for lunch and just say, listen, I just need to have an honest conversation with you about who you think I am and what you think my strengths are. Am I an awesome communicator, and should I be on the phone with people, or am I more of a techie that can invest, some more time into kind of behind the scenes lead generation? And if that's your strength, focus on it. Your business will grow too. You just got to figure out what you're legitimately good at.
Got it. No, I think that's great advice. And I think two things, Courtney, is, to be fair, I mean, you are a good marketer because you're doing a ton of different stuff, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. And secondarily, man, you and I have had some other conversations, and I got to tell you, for a Canadian, don't take this the wrong way, but you're kind of hard around the edges, man. I mean, you're like a New Yorker. You're not, you know what I mean?
It's funny you should say that, man, because I just hired a licensed assistant, and it was kind of interesting to me to get some feedback from her, from what my colleagues would say, because she worked for two other teams in town, and before she came to me, and she said, "Gosh, you've got this reputation of doing excellent work representing your clients, but man, are you hard to deal with? Like, I just cringed every time you called." And I thought, yeah, you know what? I don't really give a shit. Because I'm not in this for my competition, Toby. I'm in it for my clients, my team, and my family, and that's okay. You know what? I'm not. I'm a nice guy, but when it comes to business, I treat business just as it is, and I bend over backwards for my clients, and I'll go nose to nose with any realtor in town. And you and I've talked about radio, and you're a professional and you're excellent at what you do. And so, for me, that was business. And you and I think have kind of built a kinship and a friendship around that. And I've certainly got your, respect for what it is that you do and what your accomplishments have been. And I think I appreciate that you've got that for me too. So yeah. Sometimes it works out, and other times, you get people, Toby, who just think, man, that guy is just hard to get along with, and we're just never going to see eye to eye. But you know what? It doesn't bother me.
Yeah. And I think the good thing. I mean, I think the one thing that people can take away from this is, I think there needs to be a fit, right, between a client and a consumer and a business. And not everybody is right to work with you. Not everybody's right to work with me. And I think too many times people find a deal, and they're like, and they they might hate the person, cringe when that person calls or emails, but they're so scarcity focused that they're it's a deal, and they put themselves through hell. Just to win, to get that commission. So I think that's a good thing to take away. Now, look, earlier you said you're great at building relationships. You said, often I will duck out from a table to go put something on my phone. Let's say that you and I are at a party. I introduce you to John Smith, and he's a big whatever important guy. And you want to develop a relationship with John Smith. Do you have some sort of, I hate to say strategy, but do you, and I'll lead you with this. So you hear John Smith, what company he owns or works at. Do you shake John Smith's hand at the party, walk away, put his name, and then the next day, Facebook friend him, and then try to connect with him on LinkedIn? Do you have any kind of strategy or method to building those relationships?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing I want to touch on, Toby, is that you mentioned, just in the way that you approach the question about strategy around relationships, and we all feel a little bit abashed about calling them strategies. But, when you're in real estate, you have a way of monetizing nearly every personal relationship that you make. And I've gotten to a point in my career where I'm not shy about saying that, I do attempt to monetize those relationships. And I do expect my close friends to consider me when the time comes to do real estate because, hey, it's how I make my living. You know what? If one of my professor friends depended on, on my kid taking their class in order to pay their mortgage, then guess what? My kid's going to be taking their class. And so, I'm that type of human being. I believe in reciprocity. I believe in giving people who are good at what they do an opportunity to earn trust and to support them and their families. So let's get that out of the way. That's just a belief that I hold, and I've had to train myself to be okay with that. It's a little bit salesy and all of that, but hey, it's fundamental human behavior. I'm a believer in supporting people who support me and supporting people who need help.
And just let me just jump in. Well, hold on. I think that's great, and I think I agree with you. There's nothing wrong with it, and I think that too many people try to hide that fact that they're trying to monetize this new relationship, instead of just being transparent. And I think you and having that transparency, certainly if I was doing business with you or a past client, I would feel way more comfortable with you if you explain that to me rather than me going, geez, I know Courtney's up to something with his phone call. You know what I mean? But he's not really saying, he's beating around the bush. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, no, people, if they're choosing to do business with us, Toby, it's for a reason. They feel a kinship or they feel that we're qualified or whatever. And, they just need some education to know, hey, listen, if you're happy with what we've done, here's a way that you can get more of that or allow your friends to experience the same thing. So, super straightforward stuff. In terms of how I try to build those relationships, I think it's kind of in a casual but purposeful way. So, for example, at a dinner table meeting someone, incidentally, my natural skill set is to be terrible with names and faces. So I'm like overkill. I use their name 3 times in the first minute if I can, look them in the eye while shaking hands, try to say their name while I'm doing that, because if I don't, I'll forget literally 5 seconds later. And then, at an opportune time, once I have an idea of, who they are and kind of where they fit in the universe, I'll make a note, I'll step away, maybe if it's an event, maybe you're going to the bar to grab a beer, I'll just sidestep and put something in my phone while it's still top of mind. And then go back and, we all like to kind of have a picture of the network that we have for people and how we fit, making connections. And certainly in a town my size, that's reasonably easy. There's 85,000 people. So, 5 degrees kind of separates us all. But no, the next day, typically what I'll do is, I'll just write somebody a quick email. I don't generally resort to social media. I mean, I love social media personally, but I think it's, I don't know. I think it's just a little bit too impersonal now. That's just a personal opinion. I think there's, certainly a great tool for generating leads is Facebook and all that, but we don't use personal email so much anymore. So I would just write somebody an email, say, hey, great meeting you Friday night. It was cool chatting with you. I'll try to see if there's any value that I can add. I might say, I was talking to so-and-so about this project that you guys are working on, and he had great things to say about you. Or if there's some sort of value add that I can make, Toby, it'll be like just a giveaway, or maybe I know somebody that would be interested in a development project or, a buyer for something that this person's doing. And I'll say, I've talked to this person and I thought it'd be great to introduce you guys. Here's a connection for you both. And just try to add some item of value. And then I'll make a note on my calendar, usually 2, 3 weeks to a month later, just to follow up again and say, hey, how'd you make out with so-and-so? Or, was that of any use to you? And maybe just ask them out for a coffee. Maybe at that point, Toby, I'd be going for the friend request. If the email doesn't take 25 days to come back, or if it goes unresponded, then, obviously I haven't done a very good job. But that's typically not the case. Typically, I'm good at making those connections and building friendships. And, over time, it's just nice. Like, I literally like meeting people. I like helping people, and it's kind of a way to be able to do that more. And being an influencer is a way to be regarded highly in people's minds. That's a way to stand out from everybody else. You know, I think a friend request right up front to me is like going for the ask, like, hey, be my friend. Well, why? Like, I met you one night. Did you buy me a drink? So I try to add a little value to the relationship first before I make that proposal. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. And look, we only have about 12, 15 minutes left because I only booked you for an hour. So let's get to, I know you're doing, look, I will just tell everybody, right? So Courtney is doing radio. Courtney's doing a bunch of online stuff. Courtney's doing a little bit of everything. What is working for you right now? What do you think your biggest ROI is, or what biggest ROI, number one, and again, with a reasonable time frame, man. You don't, just because your lead acquisition cost on Facebook or whatever is $2, but the sales cycle's 2 years, like, give us something reasonable. So best ROI and then biggest, just in terms of bulk leads. What are the two things that's working best for you?
Okay. I have a qualifying kind of way to rephrase that. At what stage are we referencing? So are we talking about for a new agent or for a team with one buyer's agent and an assistant? Because in my mind, the answer to that question kind of depends on where in the continuum somebody is. Right?
Yeah, no, that's a great qualifier. I was asking about you because I want to know about you because I think people want to get to where you're at. But let's
okay.
Well, hold on. But I think more valuable is that person that is doing. I recently surveyed my audience, and it seems like the bulk of people that listen to the show do 10 to 30 or 40 deals. So that size team person or whatever.
Okay, cool. Well, someone who's doing 10 to 30 deals has time on their side, generally. So my assumption then is going to be that, that they've got some spare hours in their schedule, and, there's some efficiencies to be built in the business, and money is a little bit scarce if you're doing 10, a little bit less scarce if you're doing 30. So I'll go to the middle and say, let's say we're talking about a 20 deal a year producer. So that's kind of one every month and a half.
Okay.
I think for that person, an open house has got to be a big part of what they're doing. I mean, hey, I've got buyer's agents that do open houses right now for our team. And we all know that that's primarily to satisfy our sellers, but from our perspective, as a realtor, if you're not doing open houses and you're doing 20 deals a year, I think you've got to reconsider, because it's the best opportunity to show who you are and what you can do for people face to face. And the rule of thumb there in my mind is, I would do 4 every weekend. I'd do 6 if I could, but generally it was about 4 per weekend, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, and usually about 2 hours a piece, and give myself a half an hour to get to the next property. And, just meet face to face with people, talk to them about how you can help. I mean, forget about trying to sell the property that you're in. They're never going to buy that one. Just build relationships with people. Hey, are you looking at buying a property? Are you in the market now? When do you think you're going to take action? Do you have a property to sell? And I have to say, Toby, I think I kind of built my business in open houses.
Wow.
And I wasn't even that good at them. Frankly, I've got a buyer's agent now he just crushes it at open houses, and I was never as good as him, and that's really how I got my start. And so I would say that would be kind of the very first thing. Go to the open house, forget about the property that you're in, let it sell itself. If you get a buyer for it, great, but ultimately what you're trying to do there is meet those people, qualify them, and see if you can't show them some other properties. Come prepared for the neighborhood. The other thing that actually really helped me get started there. And
wait. Let me ask. Hold on. I want to get there, but really quickly, just so did you, so you're going to hold an open house at 123 Main Street. Prior to the open house, did you mail it? Mail the nearest 500 houses and go, hey guys, we've just listed this. Here's the open house date. Did you circle prospect? Meaning, did you, do outbound or outbound calls to the neighborhood? How did you promote that open house?
Man, you're way too fancy for me, dude. Or maybe too organized. Back in those days, Toby, I think I was scrambling. I mean, I don't know what the case is for the people who answered your survey, but that would have taken far too much preparation, and I didn't feel like I had the time for that. So what I did do is I would make a point of door knocking. Okay, so I'd have my flyers, I'd have the market stats, I'd go to the office in the morning, print out the neighborhood comparables, the open house invitation, and then go door to door. So I'd go, I forget exactly, I think it was 10 to the left of the house, 10 to the right of the house, and the 20 across the street. And that would take me generally about an hour, before each property to go have those conversations. And if I was running up against my timeline, then I would just go to the open house. But no, I think that's really what did it. I mean, I got a chance to meet, 30 families or 40 families prior to my open house. And even if all I had was neighborhood traffic, I had an opportunity to meet people in the neighborhood who got a chance to meet a realtor that they might eventually hire. My very first listing came that way. This is a true story. And this was actually in 2008. I had my first listing, even when I was a buyer specialist, but I was doing an open house on a Saturday. I went knocking, my 40 doors, and I met a lady, and she said, "Yeah, well, you know what? I am actually thinking about moving here in the next little while. I'm glad you came by today. Can you do an evaluation on my house?" And I thought, yes, of course I can. You no idea what I'm doing. The answer is always yes. Like, stick your neck out there and overcommit and figure out a way to deliver. And I did. We sold the place, and she was very happy. I helped her buy another house, and I thought, man, like, is this ever awesome? And that would just happen over and over and over. And so that's really, I think, fundamentally how I did it. I didn't have the systems in place or the dollars to do those mailers or the organization to be really strategic, but that face-to-face mattered, like knocking on doors. And man, I hated it, Toby. I'll tell you what, buddy, that was my least favorite thing. But I made a point of getting out there and doing it because I knew if I did it, at the end of the day, even if I hadn't sold a house, I could feel good and know that I had done my work. Yeah. I did my job for the day.
Well, this ties into your incremental improvement, right? Or just taking action. So I love that. And look, for everybody out there, if you want to kind of model what Courtney did, go to superagentslive.com. In the search box, look for Chris Suarez, Suarez. He does a fantastic job of laying out bullet by bullet what you should do to promote and hold open houses. We get into a lot of good stuff there. So again, we got to start wrapping up. Did you have one other thing that worked well for you at that 20 deal stage?
I do. Yeah, real simple pay-per-click marketing is a really high turnaround thing. I mean, there's some. At least in my market, it's still reasonably affordable. It's not so. There's not so many people bidding on clicks that you can't do, a deal a month relatively easily through PPC. I think that comes down to having a compelling squeeze page, having a compelling offer. I think too often, realtors at an early stage think that prospective buyers or sellers care about who they are personally.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about that. Even at my stage, people call me because of what I can do, not because of who I am. And so if you have a compelling offer, a great example, Toby, was I looked at my market and I said, okay, what sells every day of the week, no matter what? And in my market, that was a $250,000 property in West Lethbridge with 2 bedrooms up, 2 bedrooms down, and 2 baths. If I could find one with a garage, the days on market was low. They never canceled. They never expired. They always sold. So I built a squeeze page for that, so that anybody looking for these types of properties online would find one of my squeeze pages. They'd go there, ask for more information, or ask for my list. I'd build my list and get those inquiries and close those deals. And so, I think that was probably phase 2. Frankly, I mean, phase 1 was getting good at open houses and getting some additional revenue from being able to close just incrementally more deals. And then, rather than taking extra vacations a year, I invested that in pay-per-click marketing. Just rolled that additional revenue over into PPC, and that took the business to another level. And, then you get into there for me, it was then leveraging some really good SEO. So lots of blogging and some videos and generating some organic leads that way. And so it goes, just looking for ways to, take the incremental improvements that you've made this month, this quarter or this year, and rolling those over into future success. Yeah.
I love it. And listen, for everybody out there, if you don't know what a squeeze page is, or say, geez, I don't know how to code one, you can go to leadpages.net. There's a bunch of templates, and literally in the next hour, you guys could have a good squeeze page. And I love that. You could buy ads, both PPC or Facebook ads, and say, that Lethbridge area, your offer could be like, see hidden inventory in Lethbridge, right? Click here.
Yep.
Okay. So look, we're going to wrap up. I want to ask you, books and learning, as you over and over in this interview have said, is very important. So I'm going to ask for a book recommendation. You've already said Gary Keller's, the MREA, so don't say that one. So here's the setup. I'm an aspiring agent. I have $25. What book should I go buy today?
And I can't use my Bible.
No. We've talked. It comes up too many times on the show anyway. Everybody's heard that one.
Okay. Okay. You know what? I'm going to go to Jim Rohn, and let me just look through my library here. 1 second.
That's fine. Hey, and while you're looking through there, let me ask you this: have you read Chet Holmes' Ultimate Sales Machine?
No.
That's a great one, dude. Go get that one. You will love it. I promise you.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah, I will do. I'm going to go to Jim Rohn's The Art of Exceptional Living, and that's particularly relevant for me, I think, because I'm not one of these guys that's always optimistic and always happy and outgoing. Toby, I mean, gosh, I'm like anybody, man. I've had those down days where I don't want to get out of bed. I've had 3 deals crash and nobody's returning my phone calls. And listen, man, that happens now. That doesn't change. That's just part of this business. And I think it's difficult to stay above that, but we owe it to the people who do choose us to stay positive and to stay motivated and to be there for them. And you talked about letting those negative ones go and those down people go. And a book like Jim Rohn's Art of Exceptional Living really speaks to following the positive path and staying on that path and how to do that each and every day. And it's just been awesome. I go to it lots, and it helps me serve the people that want to be served by me, and it really allows me to easily let go of those people who shouldn't be in my life in the first place. So I think that's my recommendation.
Perfect. No, I love it. I have not read that one, so I'm going to go get it. And everybody, look, you can get a free copy on us. Just go to audibletrial.com/superagentslive and get Jim Rohn's The Art of Exceptional Living. Look, here's my last question to you, Courtney. Again, you've experienced great success. I know you have big ideas for the future, and I have no doubt that you're going to get there. But do you, Courtney, have a personal habit that you feel has contributed to your success?
A personal habit. I do. I think I've trained myself to look everywhere for a lead. And, if I happen to hear from, this is going to sound maybe a bit cynical or I don't know what, but, if I hear somebody that's having relationship problems, Toby, I've now trained myself to think that maybe there's going to be a house deal in there somewhere. Or if, I hear somebody that's looking for a job in a different city, I think, well, maybe there's a listing in there. Or if I hear somebody that's, renting and moving to Calgary and maybe going to buy a house there, I think, well, there's a referral. I don't know that there are many opportunities for me to lose an opportunity for a deal somewhere in the relationships that I have. It's just always in my mind. And I think that's a habit that takes years to build. And I'm still learning. There's still deals that I lose because I didn't think of the opportunity before somebody else did or before it got away from me. So I think that's probably one of the best ones is just, train yourself about where deals are and how you can help people get moved and how you can impact your revenue from that.
Yeah. And look, and I think, I think there's some people that just heard that and they're cringing. They're like, oh, that Courtney guy, right, is looking for people who are getting a divorce. But at the end of the day, but you want to help them. I think you're coming at it from a point of giving or helping instead of, it's I think I can appreciate that viewpoint. And
trust me, I'm not going through the obituaries knocking on doors.
Right.
These are people who I know, who trust me and know that I am a caring individual. And so this type of conversation isn't going to be unwelcome. Right.
Right.
I just needed to learn that was the case. I needed to realize that, hey, listen, it's okay for me to think of these things because they'll appreciate it. It's a service to them.
Yeah.
It's really not about me. It's just, at the end of the day, if there's a way for me to get paid by offering help that somebody needs anyway, then absolutely I'll give that help for sure.
And the other thing too, if somebody is going through a divorce or they're moving to, another area, they might forget about that. Hey, my buddy Courtney sells real estate because they have so much other stuff in their life. And if they can pass it off to, to a friendly face like you, all right, hey, look, so that's awesome. Look, I know that you're growing your team where you are. You're going to build an expansion team in Medicine Hat. We're recording this in the last day of November, so fundamentally December. Tell us where, maybe somebody says, hey, I really like that Courtney guy. I want to work with him. I want to join his team. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you bet. Well, you can just Google Courtney Atkinson, Courtney, and Lethbridge or Realtor or anything like that, and I'll show up. My personal email is just Courtney, Courtney, at courtneyatkinson.ca. And Toby, we just have a lot of fun. Gosh, this business has been so good to me and my team and my family. I have to say, it wasn't a slam dunk that I was going to end up in real estate, but I can't imagine being anywhere else now. And the thing that me and my team like to do is help people and have some laughs at the office and give each other a hug when one of us is crying, because there's those days too. So whether it's in Lethbridge or Medicine Hat, we're always looking for good people. And I have to admit we're pretty choosy because we've got a great group of people now, and we keep it real and we keep it positive, and we have a lot of fun helping people. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. If you got people out there that want to talk more, then I'd be honored to speak to them.
Yeah. No, we have listeners. Here's our listener base. So number 1 is the United States, number 2 Canada, number 3 Australia, and then after that we're in another 140 countries. But so look, let me just ask you this, and I know I shouldn't even be asking this question, but this is I'm personally interested. So you're going to end the deal in the year with about 200 deals. Earlier you said you question yourself whether you're thinking big enough always, or dreaming big enough, however you want to say that. For 2016. Where do you want to end? Next year, if we were doing the same conversation, December 1, 2016, what numbers am I going to hear?
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable, Toby, for us to do somewhere in the 250 range next year. I mean, that's going to be 50% growth, I guess. Is that right? No, that would be 100.
I think it's too low, man.
Somewhere.
Adding another 50.
Yeah,
that's too. I think you can do 300.
Well, see, listen, I told you I aim low, right? I think, truthfully, my goals are more along infrastructure lines this year. For me, it's a little bit more about lifestyle. I've just had a baby this year. He's 8 months old now. And, again, I'm reflecting on time. I'd like to have a little bit more time, get away from some of the evening work. So I might look at bringing in a listing agent late this year to support me with some of my listing work and free me up to do some more lead generation. Another buyer specialist would be a good idea for where we're at. I've got Medicine Hat starting there. So, I've got a guy in Medicine Hat who I think, in his first year can probably do 30 to 40 transactions. So, maybe that already accomplishes that goal of nearly 50. And Lethbridge adds another 50, and maybe we do another 100 this year. Yeah. My focus generally, Toby, has been, do what's right for the clients, make sure that they get the things that they need from us, and if I can afford to take a little bit more time off, and hey, if my income's not impacted negatively, then I think I've done well. I'm just blessed to have a good team, a great family, and I think at the end of the day, adding more hours is the wrong solution. I think just getting out of the way and trying to find some more time to spend with people that you love is really where it's at. And the business has grown tremendously with that focus, and I think I'm going to stick to it.
There you go, man. Well, you couldn't have wrapped it up any cleaner than that. Hey, everybody, go, say thanks to Courtney for coming on the show, spending an hour of his life with us. And look, I'll be the first one to kick off that thank you train. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, and let's stay in touch.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, Toby. You've got a great show, and it's been an honor getting to know you. It's been an honor being here, and we'll talk again soon about some other stuff, okay?
All right, buddy. Go get him.
All right, man. Cheers. Talk to you later.
Let's go.